we're going to see examples how to create UI from workflows, but also we're going to see how we can respond to a button click from Slack and then trigger a flow, right? So we're going to see those two cases. So before we jump into that, and again, this is the only slide that I have, this event is being recorded, and then the replay will be available immediately after the session ends. And I will also post the meetup recording on YouTube. Now, sometime tomorrow, I'll send a message that will include the link and any other resources I mentioned in this meetup. Okay. Lastly, you can follow our Crowdcast channel. I think there is a button in the upper right corner where you can follow our channel, and then you'll be notified when we go live. And also, tell us what topics you would like us to cover in the future. So this is actually an example of a topic from a user. So the user suggested, hey, can we cover this? And so this is one example. Again, but any topics, my email is in the first column. So yeah, one thing I think I missed is, tell us where you're joining from in the chat if you would like. I'm joining from the San Francisco Bay Area. Again, if you attended the meetups before, it's the same place. Also for questions, you can put them in the chat. There is also a separate Q&A section. So you can put your questions there as well. All right. So let me check. I don't see any questions, any comments. And you folks can, I see one question. Let me just quickly check that. All right, welcome from India. Welcome, Pratik. Okay, very good. So let me switch my screens here. All right. Very good. Okay, so the first part will be, how to create, interactive messages from workflows in Slack. Now, okay, so I have workflows here, and this is the right folder. So let me first actually build a new flow here quickly and just show you how you would send just a regular message, okay? Super quickly, let me build a new flow, and we'll call this simple message. And we'll flow from workflows. Okay. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use a connection to Slack. And I can send a message to, I'm going to send a message to a channel. All right. So here you select the channel to which you want to send the message. You can decide if you I want to send it as myself or as a bot. We can do it as a bot, that's fine. And then this is going to be a plain text. So, some of you probably used this before. And then I don't need the timestamp. I think the name, we can use the emoji and save. Okay, so the message is right here. I'm going to connect the message from the compose. The name would be simple text bot. And then the emoji, and I'll put a unicorn. Okay. So again, I think many of you have probably used this before, but just want to show you. Let's run this. And if I go to Slack, I'm running Slack in the browser here, just so it's easier for switching. And you can see the message here, right? So again, it's coming from this bot. That's how I named the bot. Again, if it's coming from a user, it would be, my username. That's another option. So anyhow, so as I said, this is probably something you've done before, and this is fine. But you would like to create more interactive messages. You can put buttons and input fields and other interactive elements. So let me show you how to do that. Let me go back. Okay. And I'm going to open this one, the text and Markdown. So what I have here is I have a JSON. So in general, the Slack's blog kit UI is built with JSON. Okay. Now, of course, looking at this is kind of a, it's hard to really understand what is happening. Now, what I use, and it also Slack, of course, provides, is a blog kit builder, right? That looks like this. And I'll include the link, but if you Google for blog kit builder, you'll find it. It's an interactive builder where you can build the UI. Like on the left-hand side, you've got all the various UI elements that you can create. And this is how it looks, and this is the JSON code. Okay, so for example, the example that I'm going to run in just a second, it is right here. It's called Markdown. So you click, it shows you the preview, right? And then this is the JSON. Okay. Now, so let's go back to workflows, and I've got the same JSON. The only thing is I changed the link to Okta. So I'm using JSON parse. So it's a string, and then what I'm doing is I'm creating an actual JSON object. Okay, so I recommend to do that because if you copy and paste and there is some typo or error in the text string, this card will catch that error, right? And what I'm doing next is I'm using the same Slack connection, sending into Slack. Now the difference is now I am using message type. So in the previous example, it was set to plain text. Now I'm using blocks. Okay, I'm still sending as a bot. And notice that the type here before it was text, but now it's changed to blocks. Okay, so let's run this. And I go back to Slack, and then you can see this is how it looks. Right now, you could actually, I think in theory, use text. You can actually create, you can create bold text in text. But of course, this gives you a lot more capability. You're just going to see in just a sec when you use an actual block format versus just plain text. Okay, but again, you build the JSON, or you create the JSON and you send it to Slack, and then instead of plain text, you send it as a block. Okay, now let's look at another example. So this was just text, but let's look at buttons. I mean, that's probably more interesting. So I'm going to go back to my builder, and right here you can, first of all, you can copy the payload. So if you want to try and work close, it's easy. You can just copy. I'm going to clear, okay, and I'm going to let me see what's the next one. Sorry, let me go back. 2 buttons. Okay, so you can build the 2 buttons, but also you can use templates. So there are templates here. If I click on a template, so you can see, you scroll. I mean, they're pretty interactive and pretty rich messages that you can send. Now, the one I want is right here, is the first one. Okay, so this is probably a very common example that you would like to understand how it works, where you have some text and then you click a button to either approve or deny or save or cancel or similar. Now, if I like this example, I can just use template. And then what it does, it inserts the template. I can still see the preview, right? And I can see how it was built, these sections here. And then I can also see the JSON, okay? Now, going back here, again, I've got the code here. And again, looking here is kind of a, it's not easy to understand what's happening. But it's the same code, almost the same code, and I'll explain the difference in just a sec. And then I am sending it to Slack. So if I run this, we can see that the example, it looks exactly the same, right? Now, these buttons don't do anything yet, but it says here that an app hasn't been configured. which is correct. This is just to show you how, again, you would get the JSON, build the UI, then put it in a flow, and then send it to Slack. All right. Let me see. There's a question. Oh, Nikki from Finland, welcome. Now there's a question. Will this video be shared later? Yes. So it will be, the recording will be available right after I end the session on Crowdcast, and then sometime tomorrow it will also be on YouTube. So if you go to Okta, to Okta's YouTube channel, there's a Okta workflows playlist, so it will be there. But again, I will send the link. So, all right. So this is how you can, using the builder, you can use templates. You can build the UI. Then you just copy and paste into a workflow, and then you can send. So that's the one part. Now the other part is, of course, how do we respond to a button click, right? So we want to send a message and then trigger a flow when we click a button. So let's see how to do that. So let me go back and let me click on two buttons example. We're going to use the same example. So first I'm going to go here. Okay, so let me run this, and then so you can see how it looks first. All right, so this is the same example, the same UI that I just showed, but there's a little bit more now that I needed to do, and let me show you. So first I'm going to start is, if we want to know which button was clicked, we need to add extra information to the JSON. Now, if I look at the JSON here, if I scroll down to the buttons, so the buttons are here. So this is the first button. It says approve, and then the second button, it says deny. Now, what's this missing is actually the ID of the button, because you want to know which button was clicked. Okay. Now, if I go back to a workflow, what I did is, this is the code, and let me copy this. What I also usually use is I use it like a JSON lint, where I can format the JSON. And what I did is, it's the same JSON. What I have now here is I added an extra parameter called action ID, right? And then this action ID parameter will tell me which button was clicked, right? Now, you can also go here, and let me see, this is after the value, and you can do something like this, right? Now, if you make a mistake, what's nice is that we'll actually tell you that there is an error, okay? And then for the other one, so approve, this will be deny, right? So you need to add this extra information, and there's also a documentation side which explains all the parameters. So you do need to know sort of which parameters are needed, but at least for this example, you do need the action ID. Okay, now let's go back. Now, if you look here, it's a little bit more involved. I'm actually making, before I used the built-in card to send the message, but now here it's a little bit more. I'm doing a post, and I've got some more information here, and I even have this authorization string. Now, in order to respond to a button click in workflows, in other words, when you click a button, if you would like to trigger a flow, you need to register a Slack app, okay? And so let me show you how that looks. I'm not going to go into details creating an app. I'm going to share a link right here, which kind of goes step by step on how to do that. But you need to register an app. And then when you click a button, that app registers a workflow and API endpoint, which again, in turn, triggers a flow. So let me go back, and this is the app is right here. This is the default name from the tutorial. So I'm going to open it. Okay, and if I go to interactivity and shortcuts, you will see that this is a request URL. So what this does is that when the button is clicked, Slack will trigger this endpoint, right, which will in turn trigger a flow to process the button click, right? And again, that's why I needed that action ID, so I know which button is clicked. You can then look at the JSON, figure out which button was clicked, and then perform an action according whether it's deny or approve. Okay. So again, you do need to create an app. If you follow the tutorial, that's what I did. It's pretty straightforward. You will get the API key right here. That's the OAuth token that I used is right here. You would also need to configure at least two scopes right here. And again, the tutorial that I'm going to share tells you what to do. Okay, so you set the URL, you configure the scopes, and the last thing is you need to install the app. Right, so right here you need to install the app. Mine is already installed, that's why it says reinstall, but my app is installed right here. It is the workflow. It's this app, and this is the bot name. Let me open this. Oh, is this the right? Or this is a different one? Well, let me see what was sent. Sorry. The work pace report. How come I don't see it? I wonder why I don't see the app listed here. Okay. Well, I'll figure it out. I thought it would be listed here, but that's okay. Yeah, this is a different one. Maybe. Okay. I'll figure this out. So let's look at this again. Now, also, in order to be able to respond, that's why I'm putting this, this flow together, is that, you create an object for authentication. Now, you could put this authentication in the connection, but I'm just exposing it so you can see how it works, right? So this is the authorization. This is the JSON for the UI. Now I'm creating another object. Now you also need to know to which channel to send. So this is the channel ID. Now the channel ID you can get from here. So if you click the channel details, the channel ID will be shown at the bottom. Okay. So this is the UI. This is the channel ID, and then you make this request, which creates the UI. So let me run this again. Okay, let's see. All right. So right here, now when I click approve or deny, it will trigger a flow, right, which is configured here again. Right, so this is the flow. All right. Let me quickly go look. All right. And let me open the other flow so you can see what it does. That's the webhook one. And right, so we've got an API endpoint, right, which accepts the request from Slack. And all the information from Slack is coming in the body, and then there is a payload parameter, and then I'm just parsing it. So, and then I'm using get multiple. Once I parse the object, I'm using get multiple to get the action and the action ID. Okay. So let me run this, and this will tell me which button was clicked. So if I click approve, right, we can see the approve button clicked, approve button. If I click deny, you can see the deny button was clicked. So what I'm actually doing is that I am clicking a button, it triggers a flow, and then I'm sending a response back to Slack telling me, it's like an echo, telling me which button was clicked, right? And you can look at the execution history just to see how the JSON looks. Right, so once it loads here. So this is what you get from Slack. There's just a single parameter with just a lot of information. So what I'm doing next is that I am parsing it, making it actually like an object, so it's a little bit easier to understand. And then right here in the actions, action ID, it tells me which button was clicked. So this is action. It has just one object, and then the action ID, deny button. And then I'm retrieving the deny button and sending it back. Now I'm just sending it back to Slack, so I can see which button was clicked. Of course, you might have some logic and do something based on which button was clicked. All right. So again, let's go back to, let's run this one more time. So this is the UI. All right. And I'm going to click run. So we get this request, right? You got a new request. Someone is requesting a new laptop, and then you can decide whether to approve or not. We can click approve, and we can see that the button, the approve button was clicked. All right. So that's how you process the button. So again, you do need to create an app on Slack. You do need to configure the URL. You do need to configure the scopes, and again, everything is available in this tutorial. And if you would like, I can post it right now in chat. But I will also include it in the message that I'm going to send. So, all right. Let me see here. Okay, I'm still looking for that. Maybe just this is just a name. The workspace reporter, or perhaps it's configured somewhere here. Anyhow. All right, let's move to the next example. The next example is with input. So let me show you how it looks. So I've got a similar setup. I have a different app for that. I configured a different app called automation app. Right, and so this is my automation app here. And then if I go to interactivity and shortcuts, I've got the URL, so it triggers a different flow. So when the button is clicked, this is what this endpoint will be called, which in turn triggers a flow. All right, so let's run this. All right, and you can see this is something a little bit different now. All right, there is a label, and then I've got a message here, and I can write something. Now, quickly to go back to the UI builder, the block UI builder, the way I build this is I put, was it plain text? No, it wasn't plain text. It was, No, let me just quickly go back. What did I use to send? Well, what you can do is you can copy, and I did this. You can copy and bring it back here. Then let's see here. Okay, this is how it looks. So this was, yeah, this is just plain text. Oh, this is input here. Oh, I see why. Okay, so it's an input with a label. So here, right? So, and then we can change the label to some input, and we already have the actual input field, and then I place the button, which is button right here. Okay, we've got a button. Notice it does have, because it's an action button, it does have the action ID. And then the only thing is you can change from click me to save. Anyhow, so that's how I build the UI. Okay. All right. Now, so this is right. So same thing. I have the authorization here. Again, I'm just putting it here. Probably in a real flow, you would put this in actual connection, so it's not exposed like this. Then I'm building the UI. I'm getting the channel again, and then I'm making a request. Now again, notice this is using the API connector, not using the built-in action in Slack. Okay. And if hey, hi, this is a message from the online meetup. And if I click save, then we can see that it works like an echo again. It just went back and just printed what I sent, right? And let me show you the other flow that Slack triggers. So again, we got an API endpoint. We get all the information from Slack, payload, we parse it, and then we get the value from the input field. One more thing I forgot to mention is we also give the input field an ID, which is input 3. Let me just show you. Let me show you how it looks in the UI. So if I open the UI, well, actually, let me copy this and bring it here. So right here is the block ID input 3. So you do need to specify that. If you don't specify, a random ID will be generated. So if you want to be able to read the value, you want to give this this input an ID. Okay. And then, sorry, I know I'm jumping from flow to flow, but so this is the flow that builds the UI, and then this one that responds. We can see that it has a state. Let me look at the execution history. And looking at the last one, so we go to state and then values, and then you can see input 3. That's what I named my input. And then if I open it farther, you can see the value that was sent, right? So, you have a button, you know how to figure out which button was clicked. You can also submit input and then just run whatever logic you need in the flow to determine what to do next. All right. So that's all I wanted to show you. Again, the first part was just creating messages, and again, I highly recommend you use the UI builder. It's just more straightforward than building this by hand. But do look carefully. Look at the documentation for all these elements, because some of the like the ID, for example, is not part of this. As you're building, it's not part of this JSON, so you do need to add some of the IDs if you want to retrieve them in the flow. So yeah, I would definitely use this. And kind of go from there. And if you look at templates, I mean, you can build pretty sort of complex and sophisticated and really rich messages. And then, trigger flow to process the message or the interactivity. All right. Well, very cool. Let me see if there are any questions. All right, let me. All right, so I'm going to answer this question again. I'm going to question if this will be recorded. So yes, it will be recorded. Again, available right after I end this session on Crowdcast, and then tomorrow will be also available on YouTube. All right, let me go to the chat. Let me see here. If we have something like Okta IGA, could we build a Slack initiated IGA workflow that approve button triggers webhook in the workflow, which would be ultimately create the response? So Nikki, I believe yes. I believe you can do that. Yes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to confirm and get more details. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on my blog, and then I will include a link and the follow-up message to your question. Okay. So yes, I'll do that. All right. Another question. How do you get the approve deny button to hide after the option is selected? It's an interesting question. I do not know. I don't know the answer. I would need to look in the Slack docs if that's possible. So I'll try to get an answer as well, but it's probably in the documentation whether you can hide or, well, you can show hide the button when it's clicked. I guess just hide when you click it. So, all right. Cool. Well, let me know if you have any. Let me see. There's another one that I. Oh, this is just a message. Okay, no question. All right. Well, if you have any questions after this, sorry, I wanted to do. Let me show you my email again. If you have any questions after, please send me an email with questions, with any future topics you would like to cover. Yeah, and let me know. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for joining today, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.